Okay, everybody, we're recording again, and my guest this time is Jess Falcioni. And I just was talking to Jess just prior to this meeting, and we talked about when we met each other. It was in 2007 when I did my first Broadway bound productions, and since then she has not only been my stage manager, she's been my director, she's been my performers, she's just been my employee. Like, we've worked together. We've been working together in so many different avenues that I don't even know where to begin, but I miss her terribly because she's in Toronto and all that stuff. And so everybody, Jess Falcioni. Hi, Jess.
Hi, it's so good to see you, Dee.
It's good to see you too, sweetheart. So tell us everything that was going on with your life before the pandemic.
Before the pandemic, I was working at the yoga studio and loving every second of that. I had built a lovely community there. I got a new job at a gym called Altitude Athletics. It's the first of its kind in Canada, so I was part of kind of like helping to get it off its feet from the front desk. The front desk position. Didn't quite get to start that before everything went down. And then just trying to do auditions and talk to my agent, and things were going really well. I kind of found like I was finally getting my financials figured out, a good path for my life of doing acting and other things. I was finding new communities, new groups of people that I never thought I'd be a part of, new skills. Everything was really looking up, and I was really excited to see what this was going to bring this spring, because Toronto becomes a little more dead kind of in the winter for auditions, and March is when everything picks back up and productions are going back in, and so I was like really looking forward to everything.
Yeah, that I think it just I was just talking to Faye just a few minutes ago, and basically she just said they went to school one day and the next day there was no school, and she said we have so much things to do, and she's working at home now, so it's very life changing. So now what are you doing? Like, what are you doing now?
I'm just trying to exist in a healthy way, and that changes every single day.
Right.
Some days are great, and I feel like I'm being productive and doing new skills and like keeping myself occupied, and then other days I can't get out of bed. And the journey so far in the last couple of weeks has been allowing. It's like, okay, can I wake up today? I don't know what that looks like. What is that going to be? I am also immune compromised. I have Hashimoto and hyperthyroid, and symptoms of that are insomnia and extreme like tiredness. So I'm not sleeping at night. The last 5 nights I haven't been to sleep before 5 a.m., which then kind of the morning seems like a bit of a write-off, and then you start to get down on yourself like, oh, you should be up and doing things, but I physically can't. And then other days it's, I got up and I'm going to do yoga, and I started an art project, and I made dinner for my landlady and I talked to a few friends, and other days are really good. So for me, it's just been like figuring out what I need that day and not allowing myself to belittle myself for not being able to say accomplish things.
Well, you said the same thing that everyone said.
Did I? Okay.
You did, but in a different, indirect way. We were saying how we can't always be productive every day. Mm-hmm. And then we have to give ourselves a break from being productive.
Yeah.
And that's important because, and what you're doing, like sometimes just lying in bed is your own self-healing though, Mm-hmm. Sometimes that is like, sometimes the guilt that goes along with it is not necessarily what you should be feeling. You should be feeling like, I need this night now. I need to do that. You know what I mean? So maybe not looking at it as a negative in some sense, because you're still taking care of you. You know what I mean?
I read this like meme, because memes are flying around Facebook. It feels like,
of course,
even more
yes, so. I saw lots of them.
And there's one that says, if you don't come out of the pandemic having learned something or accomplished something, you didn't lack time, you lacked discipline. And I was like, how damaging that is. Like, we should not be shaming people for not accomplishing the next best-selling novel. Like, we need to be kind, and I'm hoping that's what comes out of this pandemic is compassion and kindness towards each other, because we just can't shame people. We don't know other people's journeys. We don't know what people are struggling with. Sometimes you yourself, you don't even know what you're truly struggling with until you lay in bed all morning and go, oh wow, like I feel sad today.
Yep.
Why do I feel sad? Or, you jump out of bed and you're so excited. You're like, I'm going to attack this day and it's going to be great. And I feel so energized. Awesome.
Right.
And that's good too. But we just need to be kind.
Exactly. Because when we get busy, and I know myself, I get busy working 7 days a week, that almost the days are nothing special. They're just, you're just running, you're just going through the motion. Not saying that I don't love and appreciate my job and think that's great, but I think you do become a robot during that time. You become robotic, and then you look at it and you think to yourself, geez, if I only paid attention to this little thing that I never did before, that would be different. And that's just through time off and thinking about stuff, like, I'm taking those online lessons right now, and I'm finding I'm more in tune with what they're singing instead of what they're doing as performing. And that's a big discipline of mine to go through. And I picked out a lot of things that I can't believe I didn't notice in the studio before.
But
So,
like, what a beautiful thing for you to come out and be like, oh how
absolutely
wonderful.
Anytime we can learn something from something, it's a great thing, right? Is there any specific goal that you really like to achieve there during this time? Like,
I'd been doing a lot of work on myself, just doing some yoga and meditating and figuring out where my blocks were. And I realized in a yoga class one afternoon that I let fear control my life. And that was a really stark realization for me. And it took a couple of days to process. But I'm allowing fear to just take over my acting and my performing and how I feel about myself in certain things. So I'm trying to slowly let go of that fear. I asked my landlady if I could start singing. And she looked at me like I was crazy. She's like, absolutely. Like, why are you even asking me? Of course. Like, of course you can sing. She actually is a former actress. She was in the original company of Beauty and the Beast in Toronto.
wow.
Yeah,
Awesome.
she was Madame de la Grande Bouche. So she's like, yeah, like, sing all you want. She's giving me songs to sing. So
Awesome.
I'd like to start singing again. Neil and Holly have inspired me to pick up my guitar. I have a couple of writing projects that I've had for a few years, but have never actually sat down to do. I'd like to get that kind of back and creative. I have a painting project I'm going to start. I'm doing an anatomy class, so kind of getting back into that. But then having all these things is great, but then the trick is not getting overwhelmed and then not feeling bad and taking a day off, right? And we have to all be very gentle with each other.
Oh, for sure.
But not lose the passions. Like, it's a very thin line we're walking.
Oh, for sure. You got it right down pat. Like, I'll be sitting there, I want to do this. I want to take a webinar. I want to learn how to play piano better, right?
Oh,
and
nice. That's amazing.
Yeah, there's a guy that does a webinar, and you can do it, and you can learn a really great deal from just that. And I want to do that. Just a bunch of projects in your head that you say, I want to just do and let's do. I got my piano here. What's the excuse? But it's also just a matter of discipline is just a word that it just seems to be so harsh. It's almost like it almost is like as if it's very regimented. And I think that's the problem. Like, when you put a regimentation on something, that makes it really, really hard to grasp it if you really want to be free with it. It should be something enjoyable, not something that is going to be so mandated. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And maybe that's part of what we learn coming out of this is like, it's okay to play. Exactly. It's okay to not be so strict. Our entire lives, like you said, are regimented, and we have to be at work at this time and dinner at this time. But maybe having that and allowing ourselves to play, to enjoy, to spontaneously call a friend or do something. Maybe those are things that we can carry on into this new world, because really out of this pandemic, we're going to be in a new world.
Yep.
And the collective consciousness of a lot of people are realizing this. We're all coming to terms with, oh, these are the things that we need to work on ourselves in order to come back out of this and be a more compassionate member of society. And the world is changing. And I think that when we figure that all out, we're going to be in good shape. But these are the growing pains. Like right now, we're in the middle of like realizing all these regimented things, or what we believe to be true is no longer true. But going back to piano, like Denise, you've been wanting to get better at piano for years.
Yes, and I've been doing really well because I've been I've been playing a lot, and I've been playing a lot for my students, but I want to be better at it. And if it's almost like I always tell everybody, you know, be free with your singing, be free with your singing. And then all of a sudden I go piano, like, be free with the piano. Like, come on, that's the same thing, you know, like, so I'm looking forward to doing that. I just have to I gotta sit down and just do it. But it's not that I don't want to do it. I really want to do it. And like everybody keeps telling me, you have the gift of time, so we should really just enjoy that gift. And we were just saying, it doesn't necessarily have to mean being doing something. It could just be being, you know.
Yeah.
Be, you know, yeah. And I think that's the coolest thing. And you're right, Jess. If anything's going to come out of this, we got to be better people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just be better people. And I was just saying that to Shane. With Shane, I had a meeting with Shane today too.
Oh,
wonderful! And he's just a lovely, lovely soul. And he was just saying, like, he's just so full of love, right? And I was mentioning to him, I said, it was Patty Hadju today was on the news, and she's saying it's really lovely to see people say hi, but really mean it now.
Yeah.
Like it's because everyone is all together. Like everyone is the same, you know? So when you say hi, it's like saying hi to a friend because we're all doing this together, right? So it's kind of that's a really cool feeling. And she made us, that made me feel very unified with our country, made me feel unified with our society. And that was good. That was a good feeling.
It's funny you say that. I was in the Loblaws last week. And, you know, everybody's trying to shop less or, you know, not go out as much. So I was in the first time through this pandemic, I was in a line outside of Loblaws in the cold, just, you know, waiting for my turn to get in. And people were cautious, but they were kind, which is a really interesting juxtaposition to be in, because usually caution comes across as like fearful and bad paranoia, right? But people, it was like, you know, I'm gonna stand here, but I'm gonna look at you and give you a half smile through my mask, because through standing here, I'm protecting myself, but I'm protecting you. Exactly. And you go into grocery stores and people are aware of each other, and they're, you know, if you're trying to get to the same place, people are waiting in their turn, and then the other person will back away and this person will come in. So the awareness of oneself in the collective, watching each other, protecting each other, smiling. I've gotten more cautious smiles in the last couple of weeks than I've gotten in the 2.5 years I've been here.
But I also find it's kind of nurturing. I called the bank today and I had some information and stuff, and the people on the other end were so kind. And at the end of every conversation, I want your family to be safe and be take care of yourselves. And I'm thinking, and I just felt, thank you. Like they're my best friends telling me this, you know, like it was like it was like, I just want to let you know that I'm going through this too. And this is something we're going through as well. And yeah, I was just talking to Faye and was just telling her the day before I closed my studio, I went about a week later and I was walking out of the building. I said, am I ever going to have this again? And that was a scary thought. I was very sad. I was very sad. But then I have to think hopeful. I have to think that maybe just in such a different way that you have to approach it now, right? Because people are going to be afraid to be together in groups until we have a cure of this, you know, and figure that out, right?
But it's along the line of, when did we lose it? When did we lose genuinely saying, I hope you have a nice day, and meaning it?
Yes.
When did we lose that? Because I genuinely say that to you all the time, you know, It's like, because we're friends, but have I said that to people as a courtesy and not as a genuine statement? Probably.
I remember before the pandemic, I used to go to the grocery store, and I always felt bad for the clerks there because, you know, everybody's just on their busyness, just handing the card over, not even giving eye contact to the person working. And
drives me crazy.
I hate that with a passion because everyone has value. They're not a robot. They're there to give you a service, and you should appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
And I remember saying to the little girl, I says, I hope you have a great day. And she goes, and she was like touched by that because she just felt like, oh my God, somebody actually cares about that. And I do, and I generally do about that. And I think it's always important to say that to somebody every day. I did that
Hmm.
before the pandemic, and it's going to be more important as we get going through this because, like I think everyone has to have value. I do feel bad for all the frontline people,
Yeah.
that have to deal with this direct and be scared, like especially in your area. I think that's really tough because you guys are going through quite a lot right now.
Hmm.
Thunder Bay is holding its own quite well so far, thank the Lord. But there's a lot of people in the front, working the front lines. Best friend of mine and good friends of
Hmm.
mine, and I worry about them because it's scary. And nobody wants to get sick. Nobody wants to make other people sick.
Yeah.
And that's the responsibility, right? And that's it's scary. And like you said, you're high risk. You can't get sick.
Hmm.
It's important that that, like, so people know that you can't get sick.
Yeah.
So you know
I mean, you do the best you can. Anything that comes in this house, my landlady and I are washing in the sink with, hot water and soap. And, we're triple washing vegetables and fruit and things like that. But there's only so much you can do, but everybody has to hold up their end of the bargain.
yeah, yeah,
Like a friend of mine was walking around Toronto. He goes on evening walks by himself every night. And he said he went to a park on the west side of Toronto. And he said it was like a summer day. There were people in groups everywhere and not a care in the world. And he was shocked and really appalled because he's like, you guys are just hurting yourselves and you're hurting everyone else.
no one can get back to work till this is done.
Yeah.
The quicker you go home and you quarantine yourself and you stay distance away, social distancing from people, the faster this will get over. But no one seems to get that message, and they feel invincible, and nobody's invincible. Look at the
Mm-hmm.
people that got affected. There's a lot of people around our ages, my ages, and your age too, that have been affected by this. It doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
It doesn't discriminate. It hits everybody. Everyone's a victim in this one, and you have to think that way, and you have to think that everybody has it too. Because if you don't,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't protect yourself, right? And that's the weird part. That's the weird part. Because we're supposed to be a community. We're supposed to be trusting and everything like that, and it throws us off because now we got to be fearful of them.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that how bad things bring people together. Like, it's so cliche, but it's so true. And a lot of people are looking at this in the way we are of, this is how it is. We have to stay home. We have to, do things for ourselves to make sure that we're maintaining our own emotional and mental health. And we're going to, work hard to do that. And if we have the energy to spare, we'll reach out to people and make sure they're okay. But it's sad that we have to go through this as a world in order to get better with each other, whereas we just couldn't live in the kindness and compassion collectively all the time.
Yeah, and I think this is a really eye-opening experience about where we have to be diligent in regards to protecting ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm really proud of Canada, for example. And I think we're going to learn a great deal of resiliency because we are a resilient country. But I think we also didn't give ourselves enough credit of what we have available to us in our own country that can sustain us and not
Mm-hmm.
rely on other outside help. And that's a great feeling because we should be able to do that and hold together and keep a country working on its own to make it richer and powerful. And powerful, I mean, not in the most economic way. I mean powerful as far as spirit
Mm-hmm.
and ingenuity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Turning in all the talents that we have in this country. And I think that's going to be huge for us. And I see that happening. I see the wheels going and knowing that we can do this on our own. We don't need relying on getting all the other garbage and bureaucracy into our country.
And it's so interesting to see the small businesses and how
Yes.
they all already do so much. In Thunder Bay, there's so many wonderful local businesses that I was very lucky to frequent when I'm home. And in Toronto, in my area, I'm on the Danforth, and I work more on the east end of the Danforth at Coxwell Station. And over there's a lot of family-run businesses, lots of mom and pop shops, lots of really interesting markets and things. And they were terrified
Yep.
when everything closed down. Some of these companies haven't been in business for over a year, and this is a really, really bad time financially from them, and some of them aren't sure if they're going to bounce back, which is heart-wrenching.
I'm hoping that our government can come through for them, because they're trying. They're trying, and that's that's more than I could say. Like, I'm very grateful to them. I'm very grateful to the country to think of us and to help us through rough times. I think that's a very important thing. And we were just discussing with Thomas today. I was saying, oh, how you know Justin Trudeau's like Mr. Rogers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then Doug Ford is like the uncle that gives us heck all the time.
Yeah. You know what though? Like they're doing well. I mean, this isn't covered in how to be a government leader 101.
No.
They're winging it every hour, and they're humans.
Like I made my comment today. Thank you for a country that looks at our health before it looks at economics. Because when we get better, we'll be stronger, but we'll be reunited from it. So that's going to be the best scenario that can come from this. But are you doing well? Are you doing well?
Yeah, I, on the whole, am doing well. Some days are worse off than others. I miss my family, my friends, things like that. I get a little bit sad some days or can't sleep. But on the whole, I just remind myself, like, it's okay to have a nap, or it's okay to not feel like talking to anybody and just, going internal and journaling and being there. And then it's okay to go for a rollerblade and wave at people or, pick up the guitar or sing or do things like that. Like I find for me, I just take it day by day, and that's all I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, and in allowing myself to have bad days and have good ones and celebrate both, I'm okay. I'm good. Yeah. And I don't feel fear. So that I think is good, because I know a lot of people are feeling terrified. I don't have that. But granted, I'm also in a position where I don't directly know anybody who's been affected. I'm like you, D. I'm the eternal optimist. It's like, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. We will make it through this. I know we will, because there is no other way. We will. Absolutely.
I was just going to say, Jess, I wanted to leave off, like we have to leave very soon. I just want to leave off with a special memory of each other. Do you have a memory of me and I have a memory of you? So you tell me your memory and I'll have a memory of you.
Ooh, there's so many. Where to even start? Oh my goodness. Okay, one of the ones that's coming to me the most was Cabaret. And you were one of our leads, and you were hesitant about doing it at first. And it was you, me, and Tony, I think, we were working on. Was it the pineapple scene or something?
It was that, or Steph's scene.
Steph's scene.
Yeah.
And we used to get together, the group of us, and we used to go through your scenes. And I remember, because that was the first time that our roles had switched.
Right.
Like, I was your director in that moment, because Spencer had other things to do, so he gave me that.
Yeah.
And I had watched you go through all these things of having your insecurities, and I was like, oh, and that was when I realized you were a human being, because D, you were always so strong and always there for everybody, and like nothing fazed you, and you were like Mama D, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this woman is an actual human being who's having the same doubts and fears, and beating up herself a little bit over not feeling she's not able to get this part. And we worked together, and I watched you push through these scenes, and every day you came with more confidence and more excitement, and then you nailed it. And the scenes were fantastic. And I remember being like, that's my friend, she's so good, look at this is awesome. No, but but you were so inspiring to me, because you always have been, but at that time it was like seeing the reflection too of like, this is what Dee does for me. She's always my cheerleader. And I finally get to have this opportunity with her and watch her be this like epic performer that I know she is.
It's so great. I have a couple of memories of you, but the one I cherish the most is the opening night of 13 when you and I, Leah and Isaac, walked down that street in the rain and just went like this. And it was the best feeling in the world, it wasn't it? Like it was like
Yeah.
we accomplished something. And I remember going to an interview and they asked you what part you had, and you were the director. I just
I
started
looked
roles in the show.
Thomas was like, what? Like, little Thomas Mihaljevic at the time was 13. I remember him looking at me, and I was like, apparently I'm one of you. It's
That was the funniest ever. Like, they thought you were 13. That was so funny. But
what was I then, like
the
23?
great thing is that you did challenge yourself, though, Jess. Like, we do Broadway and Bay and all that kind of stuff where, you got to sing, you got to perform, you got to do a bunch of that cool stuff. And I loved watching that because that just brought that person who was always backstage, making sure that everyone's going good, to be forefront and be a lead in something. And that was just one of those sweet moments for me, like to see that happen, to see it full circle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then get to see you in the Christmas Carol at Magnets was probably one of the topper, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are terrific memories. And like I was saying to Shane, to see you all evolve into these terrific human beings is always wonderful to watch, right? And of course, you always were that before you even were an adult. I saw that in you. So I'm so
Well, thank
grateful that you did this, Jess. You're always a bright spot in my heart. So I love you immensely, and
I love you too.
And I thank you for doing this. I really super appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast, and I miss you so much.
I miss you too. Take care, sweetheart.
You too.